it's official after the reporting that was put out there about the NWSL draft returning to Philadelphia at the soccer coaches convention. It's official. The league has put out the actual release that the NWSL draft will take place on January 12th. That's a Thursday in Philadelphia at the Convention Center at the 2023 United Coaches Convention. And we just wanted to take a moment, not just to highlight the news, but to celebrate this because the NWSL draft has been a staple of this league since its foundation. But over the last few years, it has had to pivot to a virtual setting in light of the ongoing global pandemic. There hasn't been the opportunity in the last few years for this event to take place in a very kind of communal space. And before in previous NWSL drafts, you saw players taking the opportunity to try to make the event and make it the big moment for themselves that we've seen in the past. Players hearing their names called, stepping up to the podium, saying a little bit, a few words as they take the first steps in their pro careers. And that's going to return. It's a little bit different when it's something in person and when you're connecting human to human versus just online in a virtual platform. So this was very cool to see official and dropped today this morning.
Yeah, I love that it's officially out there. I mean, we've known about it a little bit. I know there's been rumors, and on the CBS side of things, we've known because it will be broadcast live on Paramount Plus. Attacking Third here, we will be doing exclusive coverage around the NWSL draft. So now that it's out there, it's huge, and we definitely have to celebrate because January 12th in Philadelphia, it's coming back. And Sandra, as you said, the spectacle of it being in person is that much more special for these players, for the teams. It makes it, I don't want to say more real, but when you go back and you watch the last couple of years and those virtual drafts, yes, they're still exciting and it's still fantastic to see college players getting chosen for the draft and going to their respective teams. But there's just something different about a player hearing their name called, sitting in a room full of teams and players and other respective draft prospects and being able to say, hey, that's my name, walk on stage, get the scarf from your team, smile, get your picture taken with the coach, with the owners of the club, and then get to do an in-person interview, not like jump on a Zoom. It's very different. And thank goodness that it is back in person, because even last year when we spoke with Naomi Girma after she was drafted number 1 overall out of Stanford to San Diego Wave FC, she said that she was like in her house with her roommates, right? Like she was like hanging out with her friends during this draft, which is a great place to be. And that's a little bit comfier to be in your sweatpants. But now we get to see the players get all dressed up. And of course, it's in Philly. So love that it's back in Philadelphia. It's been here many times before during the coaches convention. And January 12th, mark it on your calendar, Thursday. We'll have all the exclusive coverage with Attacking Third on Paramount Plus. You can be able to watch the draft live. I am thrilled that it's back and here.
Look, I have to ask you, what's the weather going to be like in Philly on January 12th, Lisa? Give us a prediction.
Maybe snow. Like we had a pretty snowy winter last year, but it'll be cold. It'll definitely be freezing, but nothing you can't handle. The convention center is warm. They'll have the heat pumping.
The convention center is warm. I do remember one of my first drafts that I attended in person was in Philly. It's returning, so it was previously in 2017. So I'm excited to see what is going to take place.
Get yourself a cheesesteak.
Yeah, of course I'm going to try to take in the sights and sounds if I'm able to go this this January. I don't know. I'm a little bit intimidated. I know I'm from Chicago, and the cold is cold wherever you go, and wherever cold lives, it's just gonna be cold. But we'll see. It's something that we'll have to discuss. I mean, maybe we might. I mean, you're already one half of attacking third is already in Philly. So I don't know. I think maybe we need to try to manifest some things here, Lisa. Maybe we could try to figure something out. I want to see it in the chat. If you want us to go to Philly, I want to see like little airplane emojis in the chat for sure. Because I'm excited about it. I think we were almost teased a little bit last year. I think in last year's draft there was the possibility of having a non-virtual draft in last year's off season, but unfortunately, some again more last minute pivots. We saw the pandemic still playing a factor in the event planning and that kind of stuff, and it was virtual for a second consecutive year, so I'm just excited that like the infrastructure is in place. It typically in the past has the draft has taken place at the United Soccer Coaches Convention. So it's sort of cool to just sort of see everything kind of make this return.
And so, you told people to drop their airplanes in the chat. They're doing that. And shout out to VU because they said that we got to do the cheesesteak challenge. So we'll get you to Philly.
Oh Lord,
you and I, we'll do a cheesesteak challenge on attacking third. It'll be great.
Oh wow, we're already playing. We're playing the content here with the folks live. I always love when we do that. In terms of the draft, though, Lisa, something cool that came out of this as well, not just the return to an in-person draft, but within this news relief, there was this discussion of a new under 18 entry mechanism. And that's also a little bit of a tradition when it comes to the NWSL draft. They're always it always just feels like the draft in some capacity is always getting a little bit of retooling, right? And there's nothing wrong with that. You want to stay hip with the times, right? If you're one of the best leagues in the world, and we've gone from even the most minimal of things, like something referring to the NWSL college draft is no longer. It is just simply the NWSL draft. And now for this draft in 2023, they've introduced this new under 18 entry mechanism in terms they're placing a deadline on things. A player has to be a draft candidate has to be at least 18 years old on or before January 1st of 2023.
Yeah, so that's typical what has happened, right? You have to be 18 years old to enter the draft. But now with this new under 18 entry mechanism, the league has put out that it's in the rule book, right? This is the first time we saw the fight happen with Olivia Moultrie and the Portland Thorns, and then Jaden Shaw, who was training with Washington and wanted to become a discovery player, and then got picked up by San Diego. So it's happened now twice in very recent history in the league that under 18 players are looking to play. And now they are eligible to enter the draft. But there are some caveats, of course. The under 18 players must have consent of their player, parent, guardian to enter all of this. But each team is limited to just 2 under 18 players between their senior roster and their entry list. Also, the player that's under 18 must be signed to a guaranteed contract within 30 days of being placed on the list. And the contract term must run through the season in which that player turns 18. So if a player is 16 and they enter this and they get picked up by a team, they have to have a contract with that current club until they are 18 years old. They also occupy a full roster spot. So they take up that full roster spot, and maybe that affects a little bit of the free agency coming into it as well. They also can't be selected in expansion process. And then one other rule that they listed in there, the players must live with their parents or guardian until their 18th birthday. But I think the biggest things for me is that, well, there are rules. So if you are 15, you can enter this. If you are 16, you can enter this, because the NWSL doesn't have those homegrown programs that teams in the MLS do, or teams overseas do, or other soccer clubs have. So the NWSL doesn't have that. So this is now opening that door a little bit for those younger players who understand their level and their talent in this sport, and they want to take that next step to the professional game. But I think the biggest thing is that they take a full roster spot and they have to be contracted until they turn 18, because that could be a couple years that a club is taking on a player.
Look, do I think it's cool that this exists in this 2023 draft? Yes.
Yeah.
Do I also think that this is something that could change and shift in future drafts? Also, yes.
Yeah.
Again, we've seen, like I said, retooling of the NWSL draft over the course of its history, especially within recent history, as talent has gotten a bit younger over the course of this era of football. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to be utilized, which players and their families are going to have those conversations about possibly making the decision to go pro, tossing their hat in the ring, so to speak, for the 2023 NWSL draft. And there's a number of players who could possibly make that decision, which is why the under 18 entry mechanism exists. And I the one that stood out for me is the limitation of those players. I think the each team is limited to 2 U18 players between senior roster and entry list. Got to have caps in some capacity. And I was trying to maybe connect that a little bit to the draft order of things, right? Because I would imagine that perhaps some of these younger talents might be considered one of the more promising talents or in demand talents. And when you're looking at the actual draft order of things, you see a team like Orlando Pride with two very early picks in the first round. So we're just going to actually take this from the league site. So if you have severe discrepancies within this, we're getting it from the NWSL League site. The first round is as follows. Number 1 pick at this moment is New Jersey, New York, Gotham FC. Number 2 and number 3 are Orlando Pride. Number 4, Racing Louisville FC. Number 5, Angel City FC. Number 6, North Carolina Courage. Number 7, Chicago Red Stars. And number 8, Houston Dash. Number 9, North Carolina Courage. Number 10, Gotham FC. Number 11, the Courage. And Portland Thorns with the 12th pick in the first round. That rounds out the first round of picks. And I say as of right now, this moment, because let's be real, there's always the possibility of movement in terms of club selection in that first round, specifically because sometimes the draft is also good for trades, and we'll have to talk a little bit about what a trade window could look like. We still have to talk about what free agency
there's a lot.
like.
I like that you dropped our first round, though, because I think it gives a good oversight, kind of like Gotham and Orlando. They both have 2 picks. North Carolina has 3 picks in that first round. But hey, this could change. January 12th, we got some time until this. Yeah. And honestly, January 12th and a half, we won't even find out until the draft has started and then the trades are happening. It's chaos, Sandra. You wished for it. And because we're talking about the draft, we know we're going to get chaos. Your 11-11 wish is already coming true.
It's November 15th. It's going to be here in a blink.